Okay, so today I'm going to show you how in Google SketchUp, which is this icon right here, if you forgot, how we can make a house in it. So, well, we're not going to do the whole house right now. I'm just going to show you how to do the first couple rooms. So, formerly when we used SketchUp, I told you to do some things that I have to basically unteach you right now. So because this is a different project, that was more of a, hey, this is Google SketchUp and this is what it can do. And this is, hey, let's add science and math to use Google SketchUp for something that's actually useful. So we're going to be creating, as you know, your room designs or your house designs. So right now I grabbed the rectangle tool up here and I'm going to click and drag, which means I'm holding my finger down on the mouse button to make a rectangle. When I'm happy with that rectangle, I let it go, and you can see that the panel automatically becomes gray. By the way, you shouldn't be following along with this because this is what not to do, just so you know. You can see the dimensions down here are of the gray box I just made, and they are ridiculous. They're 9 feet, 4 and 13/16 inches, which is a very random dimension. So I want to have very specific dimensions, which are the dimensions that you already put in. So I'm going to Command Z that, and I'm going to show you how to do it correctly. We're still going to take the square tool, but and by the way, we do want to keep this figure here, so don't delete him. If you have deleted him, Command Z until he comes back, or you may need to restart. Another thing that I should mention when you're starting is it may ask you for scale. You're going to choose the top one, which is feet and inches, which makes sense because we're in America. All right, so I'm going to put my pencil around somewhere near the green line, and I'm going to click once and release. So let me just grab that square tool again because I accidentally moved to the magnifying glass tool. So click and release, which means that my finger is not on the button, and you can see that my rectangle is now open and extended, and it's not gray, it's actually clear. You can still see that the dimensions are filled in. However, if I let go of the mouse entirely, which is really important that you do this, let go of the mouse entirely and just start typing. Don't worry about where the cursor is. It's automatically in the dimensions. So if you start writing numbers, like I'm typing right now, 10 feet by 20 feet. That's the dimensions of my garage. And I'm double checking my dimensions right now, like I'm looking in that dimensions area before I press return, because I want to make sure I labeled it right. Obviously the numbers are what they are, but the apostrophe after the 10 means feet to Google SketchUp, and the comma means by, and that feet after 20 also means feet, or the apostrophe after 20 also means feet. So to Google SketchUp, this reads as 10 feet by 20 feet. If I don't put in those apostrophes, it's not going to come up right because it doesn't know what measurements I'm making. Am I talking about inches? Am I talking about miles? 10 what? 10 rabbits? 10 Cheerios? It doesn't know. So you got to put in those apostrophes. After I double check to make sure it's what I think it is, I press return. So this way I don't have to do it all again. And you can see that it becomes that size. So if I orbit over this, you can see that it's a rectangle. Next to my guy, at a glance, it looks to be the right size, but I'm going to use my measuring tool now, which we probably have never used before, and I'm actually going to measure it. So if I click one corner and move to the other corner and just hover, you can see that it tells me in both the dimensions and right next to my measuring tool that it's 10 feet. And if I move it to the other area, you can see that it's 20 feet. Now if I do the diagonal, it's some random number, who knows what that is. But obviously the dimensions that I put in are correct. So that's exactly what I want. Now to get out of any tool in the middle of using it in SketchUp, I have to press escape. So that's what I'm going to do now. All right. And that's how you make a correct room. And now I'm going to show you how to do the walls and make it a slab. Keep in mind that I am going to show just the next step. If I use the push-pull tool to push this up a little bit and then let go of the mouse and type in 6 inches, which is represented by quotes in SketchUp, so that is going to, when I press return right now, that's going to pop up to a 6-inch slab, and if I take my measuring tool, I can prove that it did. My point is that whenever you need to put in numbers to Google SketchUp, you just got to forget about moving the mouse towards the area where you're putting in the numbers. You always just let go of the mouse completely and then tell it the dimensions. When you press enter, it should show you that it's locking into position. So that's the way all that works. You never have to like come over here and press delete or anything like that. You just start typing numbers and it'll know. Secondly, I currently have here a guideline. When I brought that up 6 inches, the guideline appeared. Right now the guideline's really not in the way, so I don't have to get rid of it or anything. But if I ever want to get rid of my guides, I just can go over to edit, and delete guides. So that's how I do that. All right, let me show you the next step. All right, so now I have what we're going to call a slab, or the floor, at 6 inches high, and we already know my other measurements are 10 feet by 20 feet. Check. Okay, I'm pressing the escape button to get out of the measuring tool, and I'm going over to this tool, which is called the offset tool, and you may have used it before. I'm going to hover on the edge and then click once. That's going to allow, and I've released the button. That's what click means. And I'm making it so I can see that that box is extendable. Now I'm releasing the mouse entirely again, and I'm going to type in 6 inches again. So check my bottom quarter for 6 inches, press return, and it locks that in. Now the reason that I did that, excuse me, is it created a 6-inch wall surrounding my room, which is what I need to create a room, is walls. When I raise it up, however, I'm going to Command Z that. When I raise it up, I'm going to hold down my Alt or Option button on my keyboard, and that's going to allow me to create that wall while keeping this slab separated by this line. If I don't do that, it's going to remove my slab, and I need my slab for the next steps. However, my immediate next step is to change my wall height to 8 feet. So when I rose that up a little bit, I let go of my mouse completely. I typed in 8.8 apostrophe, and when I press return now, it's going to lock into 8 feet. Now, of course, the question is, if it's 8 feet, why is it 8 feet 6 inches? Well, because our slab is 6 inches, and if I click from my slab to the top, we see that it's 8 feet. All right, pressing the escape button again. Now you can see a guideline popped up here. It's not in my way right now. Later on, I'll show you how to remove it. Actually, I'll show you how to remove it right now. If I go to edit, I can, let me just move this out of the way. If I go to edit, delete guides, that will remove the guides and they're out of my way. So now if I rotate, by the way, I have 4 walls which create a room. So this is actually my garage. This is based on my real